Everything you thought you knew about economic stability is a lie. The world is teetering on the edge of a financial abyss unlike anything we've ever seen. It's not just another market crash or a recession. It's the unraveling of the global economic fabric. Picture this. Major cities, once bustling with commerce, now eerily silent. The streets, usually filled with the hum of activity, are empty. Storefronts are shuttered, and the once vibrant stock exchanges have become ghost towns, their screens dark and lifeless. It's the early hours of a cold December morning. The world wakes up to the news that the financial systems have collapsed overnight. Banks are closed, ATMs are empty, and the digital balance you once relied on has vanished into thin air. Panic spreads like wildfire as people realize the gravity of the situation. The safety nets of modern society have disintegrated, leaving billions vulnerable. What led us here? Years of reckless financial policies, unchecked greed, and a blind faith in systems that were never as robust as they seemed. Governments, once seen as pillars of stability, are now scrambling to contain the chaos. The interconnectedness of the global economy, once celebrated as a triumph of modern civilization, has become its Achilles heel. In the days leading up to this catastrophe, there were whispers of instability. Experts warned of unsustainable debt levels, but their voices were drowned out by the cacophony of optimism. The signs were there: a volatile stock market, rising unemployment, and inflation spiraling out of control. Yet, the world continued to march forward, oblivious to the impending doom. As the dust begins to settle, the harsh reality becomes clear. This isn't just a financial crisis. It's a complete societal breakdown. The very foundations of our economic systems have crumbled, leaving a void that no one knows how to fill. In this new world, survival becomes the primary concern. How do we navigate through such unprecedented chaos? What steps can be taken to endure the worst economic collapse in history? These are the questions that haunt us as we stand on the brink of an uncertain future. A gust of cold wind sweeps through the bustling streets, as if announcing the impending storm. In the heart of the financial district, tension crackles like static electricity. The air is thick with anxiety, and every glance exchanged between brokers and bankers carries the weight of uncertainty. How do we arrive at this precipice? To comprehend the magnitude of this economic collapse, we must delve into the murky waters of its origins. Decades ago, a series of misguided economic policies laid the foundation for the catastrophe we now face. Governments, in their relentless pursuit of growth, ignored warning signs and doubled down on strategies that seemed profitable in the short term, but were unsustainable in the long run. Tax cuts for the wealthy and deregulation of key industries created an illusion of prosperity. Yet beneath this facade, imbalances festered, sowing the seeds of disaster. Simultaneously, a global financial system, increasingly intertwined and complex, became vulnerable to shocks. The 2008 financial crisis was a harbinger of the fragility that lurked beneath the surface. Although some lessons were learned, many were ignored. The same risky lending practices and speculative investments that triggered the crisis were allowed to flourish once more. It was as if the world had chosen to forget the pain of the past for the seductive promise of profit. Moreover, technological advancements, while propelling economic growth, also widened the chasm between the haves and have-nots. Automation and artificial intelligence replaced jobs, leaving millions unemployed and disillusioned. As the wealth gap widened, social unrest simmered, threatening to boil over at any moment. The social fabric, once the glue holding society together, began to fray under the strain of economic inequality. The global pandemic that struck in the early 2020s sent shockwaves through economies worldwide, exposing their vulnerabilities. Supply chains stretched to their limits, snapped under pressure, leading to shortages and inflation. Governments, scrambling to mitigate the damage, injected trillions into their economies. Yet, this only delayed the inevitable, as debts soared to unsustainable levels. The very lifelines meant to rescue were transforming into shackles, binding economies into a vicious cycle of borrowing and inflation. And then, there is the specter of climate change, an ever-present threat exacerbating existing economic woes. Natural disasters, more frequent and severe, wreak havoc on infrastructure and agriculture, driving up costs and displacing populations. Nations, struggling to rebuild, find themselves trapped in a relentless cycle of destruction and reconstruction, with no respite in sight. As these elements converge, the world stands on the brink of an unprecedented economic collapse. The question now looms: can we navigate through this tempest, or are we destined to repeat the mistakes of the past? The path forward is fraught with challenges, each more daunting than the last. Yet, amidst the chaos, there remains a glimmer of hope, a chance to learn, to adapt, and to forge a more resilient future. The streets of New York are eerily silent. Shops that once bustled with life stand abandoned, their windows covered in dust. This is the epicenter of what has become the worst economic collapse in history, and yet the impact stretches far beyond the borders of any one country. In Europe, the once impenetrable fortress of the European Union is showing cracks. Germany, the powerhouse of the continent, grapples with the collapse of its manufacturing sector. Factories fall silent, and the Rhine, a vital artery for commerce, becomes a ghostly witness to the halted trade. Across the Channel, the United Kingdom is not faring any better. The city of London, once a hub of finance, is now a shadow of its former self. The pound sterling plummets, and the nation faces an economic winter unseen since the Great Depression. Households struggle as inflation spirals out of control, turning basic necessities into luxury items. The haunting question looms: how did this once thriving economy crumble so quickly? Meanwhile, in Asia, the effects are just as devastating but unfold in a different manner. China, the world's manufacturing hub, experiences a ripple effect. Supply chains collapse, leaving millions unemployed and factories shuttered. With exports at a standstill, the government faces mounting pressure to stabilize an economy that has been the lifeline for so many. The bustling streets of Shanghai and Beijing are now filled with uncertainty and fear, as citizens wonder how long this downturn will last. In contrast, India finds itself at a crossroads. The country, once projected to be the next economic superpower, faces its own set of challenges. A burgeoning population coupled with a faltering economy leads to increasing social unrest. The vibrant markets of Mumbai and Delhi are now battlegrounds of economic survival, as small businesses crumble under the weight of an unyielding recession. Across the Pacific, Latin America is not spared. Brazil, known for its vast natural resources, faces economic paralysis as global demand dries up. The Amazon, a symbol of abundance, now mirrors the desolation felt by its people. Inflation, unemployment, and poverty rise in tandem, painting a grim picture of a region in distress. Yet, amidst the despair, there is a flicker of resilience as communities band together, seeking solutions in solidarity and innovation. Each of these regions tells a story of struggle and adaptation in the face of a shared global catastrophe. The differences in their experiences highlight the complexities of an interconnected world brought to its knees by an economic collapse of unprecedented scale. As we navigate through this chaos, the lessons learned from history's past economic disasters become ever more crucial. How will these nations emerge from the shadows? What strategies will lead them back to stability? The answers lie in the chapters that history has yet to write. In the shadow of history, the echoes of past economic collapses whisper lessons that resonate with today's uncertain times. Picture the Great Depression of 1929, a time when the world seemed to stand still, enveloped by a fog of despair as markets crumbled overnight. Banks shuttered, leaving families clutching their meager savings, and breadlines stretched endlessly. It was not just an American tragedy. The shockwaves rippled across oceans, toppling economies and redefining global trade. Yet, from these ashes, lessons emerged. The importance of robust financial regulations became undeniable. The Glass-Steagall Act, for instance, was a direct response, separating commercial and investment banking to prevent conflicts of interest. This regulation aimed to safeguard ordinary citizens from the reckless financial gambles that had led to ruin. But as time passed, the act was eroded, reminding us of the cyclical nature of history's warnings. Fast forward to the 1997 Asian financial crisis, a storm that swept through economies like wildfire. The collapse of the Thai baht sparked a domino effect, toppling once thriving markets across Asia. It taught the crucial lesson of currency stability and the dangers of excessive short-term borrowing. Nations learned to build foreign exchange reserves as a buffer, a strategy that has since become a hallmark of economic resilience. In 2008, the world once again found itself on the precipice. The subprime mortgage crisis revealed the peril of unchecked greed and the illusion of endless growth. Financial institutions that seemed too big to fail did just that, leading to a global recession. This crisis underscored the necessity of transparency and accountability within financial markets, prompting reforms and the creation of regulatory bodies like the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform. As we navigate today's economic uncertainties, these lessons serve as compasses. The importance of diversification, the need for emergency savings, and the value of sustainable growth are timeless. These historical echoes remind us that while the faces of crises may change, their core challenges often remain the same. In understanding the past, we are better equipped to face the future, armed with the wisdom of those who have walked similar paths before. As the dust settles from past economic collapses, the question looms: how do we navigate the treacherous waters of another impending disaster? The air is thick with uncertainty, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Practical strategies become lifelines, and those who anticipate the storm can weather it. Imagine a family sealing their windows as a hurricane approaches, every precaution meticulously planned. But this isn't about weathering a natural storm. It's about surviving an economic one. Individuals find themselves at the forefront of this battle. The key lies in diversification. Imagine your financial portfolio as a ship sailing through turbulent seas. If one sail rips, another must catch the wind. Diversifying investments across different asset classes, stocks, bonds, real estate, provides balance. It's not just about where you invest, but how you manage debt. In the face of economic collapse, reducing personal debt becomes crucial. Picture it as lightening a balloon's load to soar above the storm. Experts suggest building an emergency fund, a financial safety net that cushions the impact of sudden loss. Even as the world trembles, those with reserves can stand firm. Consider a family setting aside jars of preserved food for winter. This fund is your pantry, ensuring survival when resources dwindle. Moreover, acquiring practical skills can be equally vital. In bleak times, skills like gardening or basic repairs transform from hobbies into essential tools for self-reliance. Governments, on the other hand, must navigate a more complex landscape. The cornerstone of their strategy lies in maintaining public confidence. As history has shown, panicked citizens can exacerbate crises. Governments must act decisively, implementing policies that stabilize the economy. Fiscal stimulus packages designed to inject money into the economy can be lifelines. Imagine them as defibrillators, jolting a faltering heart back to rhythm. Moreover, international cooperation becomes indispensable. In our interconnected world, an economic collapse in one nation can ripple across continents. Collaborative efforts to stabilize trade systems and financial markets are crucial. It's akin to a group of climbers tethered together. If one stumbles, the others must hold firm to prevent a fall. Examining successful examples provides a beacon of hope. During the 2008 financial crisis, countries like Germany implemented short-time work schemes, preserving jobs by reducing hours instead of laying off workers. These strategies, like a well-rehearsed fire drill, kept economic structures intact while awaiting recovery. Yet, even with the best strategies, unpredictability remains. Individuals and governments alike must prepare for a landscape where traditional rules may no longer apply. As we stand on the precipice of uncertainty, the question isn't if we can survive, but how we will adapt. Will we rise to the challenge or be swept away by the tides of change? The world stands on the edge of uncertainty. Questions loom over our heads like storm clouds. Can the global economy bounce back, or are we on the brink of further turmoil? Picture a world where nations scramble to stabilize their currencies while populations navigate the maze of inflation and unemployment. In one scenario, international cooperation becomes paramount. Countries might unite, forming coalitions to share resources and knowledge, aiming to establish a more resilient economic framework. Imagine leaders from diverse backgrounds sitting at a round table, their expressions a mix of determination and anxiety as they sketch out plans for recovery and sustainability. Yet, the path to recovery is fraught with obstacles. Trade tensions could flare, leading to a fragmented global market. Picture an intense debate at an international summit, voices raised, each nation fiercely defending its interests. In this scenario, protectionism might rise, with countries turning inward, prioritizing domestic industries over global partnerships. The ripple effects of such decisions could be far-reaching, impacting not just economies, but also geopolitical stability. Alternatively, technological innovation could become the beacon of hope. Envision a world where breakthroughs in renewable energy and digital currencies redefine the economic landscape. Entrepreneurs and visionaries might emerge from the shadows, their innovations sparking new industries and opportunities. Imagine bustling cities powered by clean energy, digital transactions seamlessly integrating into everyday life. This scenario hinges on the willingness of governments and corporations to embrace change, investing in research and development to propel society forward. However, the specter of inequality looms large. In a world where the gap between rich and poor continues to widen, social unrest could become a recurring theme. Visualize the streets filled with protests, voices demanding justice and reform, as governments struggle to address the needs of their citizens. The challenge lies in balancing economic growth with social equity, crafting policies that ensure prosperity is shared among all. As we contemplate these possibilities, one question remains: which path will we choose? The answer lies in the collective actions of individuals, communities, and nations, each playing a role in shaping the future. In this delicate dance of decision-making, every step taken today echoes into tomorrow, determining the fate of generations yet to come. In the aftermath of an economic collapse, the air is thick with uncertainty and urgency. The world stands at a crossroads, facing the monumental task of rebuilding its shattered financial systems. It's a moment that demands a radical rethinking of how economies function, a reinvention that could determine the future of global stability. Innovations in technology and sustainable practices emerge as beacons of hope, promising a more resilient economic framework. The integration of digital currencies, for instance, offers a decentralized alternative that could prevent the concentration of power that led to previous failures. Meanwhile, renewable energy investments not only promise environmental benefits, but also economic diversification, reducing dependency on volatile oil markets. Structural changes are equally crucial. The emphasis shifts towards creating economies that are not only robust, but also equitable. Policies are proposed to address income inequality, ensuring that wealth distribution doesn't become a catalyst for future crises. The role of international cooperation is underscored, as nations realize that isolationism only exacerbates vulnerabilities. Trade agreements and global regulatory standards are revisited, fostering an interconnected yet resilient economic network. Yet, these transformations are not without their challenges. Resistance from entrenched interests and the inertia of existing systems threaten to stall progress. The question lingers: can humanity rise to the occasion, breaking free from the shackles of the past to forge a new economic era? This is not merely a question of survival, but of evolution. As we navigate this pivotal chapter, the lessons learned will echo through generations, shaping not just our economies, but the very fabric of our societies.